Welcome back to Tasteland. I am your co-host, Francis Zierer.
And I'm Daisy Alioto.
And Daisy, who are we speaking with today?
Today we're talking to Rax King. She's the author of the 2021 book Tacky and co-host of the podcast Low Country Boil. And her second essay collection, Sloppy, just came out yesterday and is in stores right now.
And it's really good. I'm going to give full disclosure. As we record this, I'm only halfway through because I'm a horrible podcast co-host. But it's really good.
I mean, I guess I did finish the book. This is the rare case where maybe I am in some way better prepared than Francis, but I think this is just the universe balancing.
Look, we're both great podcast co-hosts. But the book is really good. I think it's like very, I don't know. It's one of those ones that's like kind of hard to put down in that it's funny, then it's sad, you're laughing, you're crying. I'm laughing at my lazy description, but it is. It's very like, I would say it's very.
It's okay, Gwyneth Paltrow.
The color
laughed,
saturation is very
cried,
high.
he did like, a shot.
The heart is on the sleeve. The saturation of the colors it's so high, so rich. I don't know. It's like
it's got History Channel's Alone. It's got cocaine addiction. It's got Maryland culinary specialties. Truly everything that you could want in a book. And Rax has written for her a couple times. She was part of our My Movie Theater series with Movie and had some excellent thoughts on buttered popcorn. And she also wrote about
peace to the Lincoln Place.
Yeah.
MC, right?
Yes. I think that's correct. Yeah. And she wrote about going to an oxygen bar in New Jersey.
I always wondered about that.
Yeah, well, you got to read the piece.
They had one in my hometown. I think it's long gone. But like, is that like getting an IV? Like when you're like rich and hungover?
Yeah, it might be the poor man's IV infusion.
Is it the poor man? How expensive is an oxygen bar?
Well, you got to go read the piece. But
okay.
We're really excited to have her. She's already in the waiting room, so we're going to go right to it.
Yes. How do you feel about the book releasing? This is your second book. Very different. I haven't read the first one, but having listened to your pod, having been reading this book, I feel like it's a very different book than your previous book, right?
Yeah, so at the time of this recording, my book is coming out in exactly 1 week, and I feel completely normal in every way. I'm just going about my day, having all the regular feelings and none of the weird ones.
Mm-hmm.
Partly, obviously I feel like shit. I feel so bad every second. Every second in a new way, I feel bad. And it's because this book is... it is pretty different from the first one. And the reason that you said that kind of coyly, I think, is because you listened to the episode of my podcast where I outright admitted that the thing fueling that first book was a steady diet of cocaine and bourbon and self-loathing and bad behavior and just all kinds of stuff that I then stopped doing and wrote a new book, Sloppy, about that. And so the tone is not the same. The vibe is really not the same. I think it's a little bit darker than the last one. And and I feel normal is, I guess, the upshot of all that.
Does it feel like there's less of a barrier between you and the material in this new book because your experience of writing it wasn't mediated by substance?
For a time, it was sort of the opposite because being high and drunk had been so key to my process for so long. I mean, I just did not know how to think without being high or drunk, much less how to write. And so I spent a little bit of time flailing around and trying to find some new way into, writing the book I'd been contracted for. And I figured it out eventually. And then it was basically as you describe. I mean, I could trust in my writing more. There wasn't that thing of like Hemingway, I think, said, write drunk, edit sober. Yeah, that old chestnut. And it's really bad advice, actually, because...
Should be eradicated.
Yeah, it should be eradicated, at least for people who, are addicts, because if I would write drunk, editing sober just meant cutting out all the stuff I said when I was drunk. Like, it was such a shockingly inefficient process. And it's not like that anymore. Like, I can pretty much trust, even if I end up changing something, that it's not terrible as written. I'm no longer sending emails to people at strange hours like, check out this genius thing I wrote. Like, it's that phase is over, I hope forever. So embarrassed still about all those emails. And so, in that way, it's much more organic and less mediated and just less embarrassing, frankly.
Mm-hmm. You said that this one is darker. I haven't read the first one. On this one, I'm a little over halfway through. I'm on the bad friend essay. I don't like. I don't know if I would have had described it as dark. It feels to me like, I don't know, like really generous is more the move. Like, you kind of wear your heart on your sleeve, which maybe like at times you're talking about like dark parts of your life, but I think it's written about in this way that is like really vulnerable, in a way that's like so generously vulnerable, as I couldn't really describe it as dark at all, because it's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I guess I mean more that the subject matter itself is darker stuff than I mostly write about in the first book. And the way you say that, like, I'm vulnerable, and that is certainly true. It's I think it's a very honest book, but I invited my mother to a reading that I did from Sloppy, from the new book. And I read from a chapter that's about the week that I spent in a mental institution. And, after the reading was over, my mom came up to me and she was like, that reading was really funny and this essay is really funny. But I remember that week, and it was like the worst one that either of us had ever had. It was so horrible. We were so miserable the whole time. And I guess that's more what I mean when I say that this book is darker than the last one. Is I'm covering stuff that I would not have admitted with a gun to my head the first time around.
One thing that strikes me is the difference between the first book and the second book, as well, is with the first book, there is a sort of like the opportunity to get hung up on the semantics of what tacky means. Like, it feels like part of the marketing around that book for me, or just like the opportunity to comment about it online, even in your own tweets, is like, oh, this has given us an assessment of this sort of like false dichotomy between highbrow and lowbrow, and you getting tagged in to like comment on whether something is tacky or not. What is the definition of that? Whereas like with sloppy, I don't think you ever even give a working definition of what sloppy means, and nobody's going to come away from the book wanting to apply the word sloppy to things. It's like it's much more about an emotional truth than a cultural definition. And the language is, I think if people come away with a new vocabulary, it would be one to describe the sort of highs and lows of their life. And I think that's just like a really beautiful evolution of your work.
Yeah, I mean, what you talk about there, I, to this day, anytime the word tacky is used, I get a million tags from people who, like, I'm so grateful that they read my book, or at least know what the title of it was. And I get asked to like arbitrate disputes about taste and whatnot. And I'm certainly not complaining. I mean, I'm touched that people's takeaway from my first book was somehow that I have authority and that I'm like a thinker or whatever. And that's just not really what I was going for then. And it's certainly not what I'm going for now. What I would like people to take away is that I'm just some dumbass farting around, and I was that dumbass the first time around too, even if I somehow convinced you that I knew my ass from a hole in the ground. Not the case. And like, I think there's great value in reading work that is not really trying to answer questions or make proclamations about in this case, taste. I'm not writing sloppy to issue proclamations or to tell people how to feel about things. I'm just kind of talking about myself. And I think that's something more books should be doing, frankly. I mean, there's always, anytime a piece of personal writing gets popular, there's this really tedious debate about like, is there too much personal writing? Do we know too much about each other? Like, just really silly stuff. And I'm like, I don't know too much about people. I would like to know more about more people. I would like there to be more personal writing, even if that means wading through some of it that is bad, because I want to get at those emotional truths. And I think the way you do that is by reading other people's lives, not so much by reading other people's opinions.
Well, I feel like in good personal writing too, like part of what makes it good is that the person doesn't like really supposed to know too much about themselves even. And like even by the end of it, maybe there's like this suggestion of like a direction of truth, but there's no like definitive answer. Something I wrote down from I think this might have been the first chapter. You say, if anything, it feels much worse now on the rare occasion that I forget Sean's birthday or allow an old Arizona iced tea can to grow mold on my desk because I finally share my teachers' and employers' opinion that I'm better than this. And I think that's kind of what we were just talking about of like, it's not, you're not saying like I am always better than this and that's the answer now and this is where I've gone. It's just like about like, I don't know, knowing a little bit more of about yourself, but not some true definitive answer.
Yeah, and I think that temptation is really present. The temptation to have like every essay in this book end on a note of, but I fixed it, you know, whatever dumb shit I did that I'm writing about here, I don't do that anymore. And there are a bunch of essays in this book about addiction, and I am sober like 3 years and change now. So
congratulations.
Thank you. Definitely everyone should congratulate me all the time. I'm very brave.
That's what we can call this episode. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations indeed. But, you know, there are a bunch of essays in this book about addiction. And because I'm not in active addiction anymore, there was this temptation to have that be the end note of talking about alcohol or cocaine is like, well, I don't do it anymore. So, you know, I win and I'm fixed. And that's really not how it's been. That's not the reality for me. The reality is that, you know, certain of the bad habits that I write about in this book, I've stopped doing. Some of them I still do to this day, but in all cases, I'm the same person. And if I stop doing something that's bad for me, I still have all the character flaws that led me to do it in the first place. So I really wanted to resist consistently the temptation to end things on a happy note. Like, I think by and large, my tone here is pretty upbeat and funny, I hope, but I didn't want the takeaway to be some fairy tale, like happily ever after, I fixed all my problems thing. Incredibly untrue. I still have all the same problems as before.
I think for me, the heart of the book and sort of like the turning point of the book is, I mean, turning point in the sense of like the narrative changes a little bit, but also the book sort of pivots around it, was your essay, Anger Management. And to me, what I really related to about it is I think the way a lot of us handle fundamental truths in our lives, where it's like, somebody's like, tell me about your family. Like the initial story that we tell and the story that we tell ourselves normally is one thing. And it's not a lie, it's true. Mm-hmm. And then there's like a little bit of a deeper truth. And you get through the book sort of telling the first version of the story. And then you get to the essay that's like, well, actually, it's not completely how it happened. And then you spend the sort of second half not backing away from it, but basically saying like, and here's why that's okay, or here's why that can coexist with the generous version of the story. And I really like that because it feels like the structure of the book really mimics how we kind of come to addressing things that are painful or traumatic about our past, without just like constantly retelling the worst version of that story to ourselves, because that makes it actually very hard to live with. And I was wondering, when you were putting the essays together, not just this one, but like all of them, how did you think about the structure of the book, to not have it be like you said, like a pilgrim's progress for getting sober, but also to like mirror that there are ways of thinking in our lives that sort of like approach and retreat from the most painful truths.
Yeah, I mean, as I was chugging along, and as I chug along really in any project of writing about myself, I really have to combat the versions of these stories that I've been telling myself for a long time. Like a lot of what appears both in Tacky and in Sloppy is stuff that happened a long time ago. And that's true for a lot of memoir writers. Like for whatever reason, the stuff that happened in early childhood or adolescence is more vivid for us than the stuff that just happened last month or whatever. And so there's a lot of writing about events and situations where in the intervening years, I've cooked up some narrative, often one that exonerates me, but, you know, just as often one where I'm the antagonist. Like pretty much all the narratives that I have about things I lived through, I'm the key figure, and I either screwed somebody or I ruined someone's life or I was wronged by someone else, you know, but I'm always at the center of it and I'm always the important one. And in memoir and personal writing in general, I don't think it comes out well if you can't recast all those tired old narratives and if you can't get past the version of the story that is easy to live with. You know, for me, it's really easy to live with stories where I was wronged by everybody and I never made a mistake. And then as I was getting sober, that story kind of overcorrected and it turned into, I'm actually, okay, I was wrong before. Turns out I'm the worst piece of shit in the universe and I wronged everybody. And anything that, you know, I feel wronged by, I'm just looking at it from the wrong perspective. And neither of those is true. And neither of those is ever really true. And the reality is more interesting and more textured. And it's that I did some things wrong and I did some things I'm not proud of. And I was wronged by other people at different times. And there's always a dynamic there that I'd rather explore, you know, as much as I can. And if that means making myself look bad, which I think in this book I often do look pretty bad, and then that's fine. I can live with that because it's the more interesting and realistic version of what happened.
Is it like, I mean, when I write an essay, I don't really write any personal essays, but the writing and rewriting is like I feel like my thoughts are never clear and are always pretty stupid, right? When I like first get them down, and then it's like I put it down and then I read it and then I can react to that. And like I like when you were writing some of these stories and the way you're talking about like recasting these stories and like remembering them and like, you know, kind of recasting the antagonism, etc. Like to what degree was a lot of that happening like after you wrote it down and then like in the edit of like, oh wait, I wrote this down this way, but that's actually not how it happened at all?
Yeah, there was a lot of that. And that internal dynamic that you're talking about where you aren't quite sure whether something you've written is stupid until you've written it. That's what makes it really hard for me to pitch essays and to freelance as an essayist. Because, like, I can bluster through a pitch email, I guess, but it always sounds really false because I don't know what my point is going to be. I didn't write the damn thing yet. Like, how about you agree to pay me because I'm good at writing, and in return, I will take this half of a thought that I had in some interesting direction that we can do something with. And obviously, like, for so many reasons, that's not the way it works. But I do think, you know, there's some merit to that because a good essay, whether personal or otherwise, shows that work to an extent and shows the writer figuring out what they want their point to be and how they get there. You know, it's, you know, the interesting part about an essay is not the answer, whatever form that takes. It's the thinking and the exploration.
I always love to say yes to that and to you. And usually if I say no, it's for budgetary reasons and not because I want to know the answer up front. But there is something very different about pitching a personal essay, that sense of the unknown, and you're kind of trusting that writer to take the journey, which I think is why it's so hard for newer writers to break in too. And I've really tried to learn how to assess somebody's voice, not knowing, okay, where are they going to go with this, if this is their first byline or their second byline. But I wanted to tell you, I really liked the part where you write about working in restaurants. And part of why I liked it is because you referenced Dirt's, one of our signature pieces, Bad Waitress by Becca Shu. And I was thinking about, while I was reading it, that I actually think writing about restaurants by people who don't have the experience of working in restaurants has like not gotten better since Sweet Bitter came out, and some of the other touchstones you referenced. I think if anything, it's almost gotten worse. And I don't know if it's like, if it correlates with restaurants as status symbols in the culture, that like the more eating out has status at any given time, the more skewed people's perspective is towards what hospitality labor actually entails. But I'm curious, like, what you think. Like, were there things that you would have liked to say about that experience that you had to leave out of the essay?
I mean, it would have been very easy for me to turn that essay into just like 7,000 words of griping. I went into that project so ready to gripe. And there, you know, there's a certain amount of griping in there. Because I think that, who is it that said this? It has meant so much to me over the years. I want to say it was Bill Buford writing Heat, maybe. He said that restaurant labor is one of the forms of art where you can really see what patronage looks like still. Like, you don't really, in most other forms of art, we've kind of cut out the money man figure, often to the detriment of the arts. There's rarely like that one guy with the money demanding the art from you anymore. But in restaurants, the guy with the money is, you know, he's coming in 100 times a night, and there's many guys with the money.
We call them
actually
patrons too.
We literally call them patrons, like, and they're very straightforwardly patrons of the arts on a small scale. And I think something about like the interplay between a person going into a restaurant, knowing they are a patron, knowing they are patronizing the arts, versus the relatively low price point of going to a restaurant. Like, you can't buy a $1 million painting probably, but if you save for a few months, you can go to a $600 dinner. Like, it's a lot of money. It's magnitudes fewer of money than other forms of art. And so it creates this ugliness, I think, in restaurant patrons. And when I was working in restaurants, I think I say this in the essay, I kept thinking, like, who the fuck are these people coming in here, bossing me around? They're like, they are talking to me real hot for people who are hungry and who know that I have the food. If they're mean enough to me, I might not bring them the food. Like, that was just the running monologue in my head, was, who are these jackasses who depend on me to feed them and are still so nasty to me? And I think that if you have not worked in a restaurant, there is no way for you to know what that's like unless you are in some other form of work with that relationship as just a big part of your daily life. Like people who work in retail. If you work cleaning hotel rooms, you deal with the petty patron all the time. And I think that, you know, I posted this today and I'm getting very yelled at about it right now. Yeah. And I've posted it before and I get yelled at every time. Every once in a while, I'm like, there ought to be a draft in America. And when you're 18, you get entered into the draft automatically, but it's not for military service. It's for food service or it's for retail. You have to work one of those jobs at some point starting when you are 18 years old. And I get very yelled at about this every time I say it. I still think I'm right. I think that you learn so much more about just both the shittiness of dynamics between people and how good those dynamics can be. You learn more about that stuff working in retail or working in food service than you're going to learn anywhere else. It's not a class war thing. It's a learn how to be around people thing. And it's a skill that if you've never worked one of those jobs, you probably kind of don't have. I'm sorry to say.
I am so I was literally talking to somebody about this the other day. I agree with this so much. Like I'm like a single issue voter for drafting and being in the restaurants. I don't know, like my first restaurant job, I was a dishwasher, and like I've been a dishwasher, I've been a cook, I've been a barista, and like you know the engaging both with like coworkers and like people who like from various walks of life with various levels of like absolutely insane ways of interacting with you, their coworker, to like obviously the customers. I think too about like when I when I lived in New Orleans and I worked at this coffee shop in the Central Business District. And like we were in the base of this tall building, all these lawyer guys would come in, and this like 7 foot tall guy who would call me buddy, and I hated him. I was like, someday, like I'm gonna be an asshole ordering a $16 chicken salad on my lunch break. And the first time, my first like non-restaurant job, where I did that, and I like went in and I bought like some stupid $16 chicken salad. I was like, holy shit, like I'm the asshole. Yeah. And I tipped like 25%. I don't always tip that much on a $16 chicken salad, but I was like, this is for the me that wanted to be the asshole. Anyway, rambling a bit here, but yeah, I love that idea, and like I loved this essay. I think so many of these essays, there's like bits that like are like, wow, I'm so glad you're saying that, because like I've smoked too many cigarettes or whatever it is, right? And it's like very like, that's what I was saying earlier about like the generosity of the vulnerability. But yeah, the restaurant one I thought was particularly funny. There's like another part too where you're talking about, I wrote it down, I think his name was Gerard took me to a fork in the road, showing me what a career in hospitality could feel like. I took the other fork long ago, and there's no going back to the bud of shy pride I left to wither. Which for me, I promise I'll stop talking about myself in a second here. I remember specifically also in New Orleans, I was working at this restaurant, and it was like the moment the chef was like trying to get me to write recipes, and we worked on this smoked granola together, which didn't really work, honestly. But
I'm gonna level with you. That sounds gross as shit.
Luckily, the smoke didn't really get in. So really, what we got was just like a homemade yogurt with like granola and lime zest granola. But anyways, yeah, this restaurant one, I really loved. It was so funny.
I mean, if I may air a crank take, even more crank than the service industry draft, I think it is a humiliating and corrosive thing to be a customer. Mm-hmm. And I have obviously been a customer many more times than I've been the person like waiting on customers. Like we live in a society. But we do. We live in a society where all of us kind of have to be customers all the time, because most of us don't know how to make the shit that we use. We don't have the materials to do it. We don't have the time or the skills. So multiple times a day, often, I am put in a position where I have to take my stupid little maxed out credit card to the store, and I have to say, pretty please, mister, can you unlock these razors for me? Oh. And then some person has to do it. And what you were saying about like, you went into the $16 salad place, and all of a sudden you're on the other side of the desk, and you're the one calling the cashier buddy, and you can see the boredom and the misery in their eyes. That's horrible. That's bad for the soul to be on the customer side of that interaction. And I honestly think, put everyone in the service industry draft. Everybody has experience now, both on the customer side and the service side. I think it's going to make it a much less shitty, miserable thing to be a customer. So
I think we should kill customers.
I agree.
I think it's either the draft or Hunger Games. If you decide to stay
up against the wall,
undrafted,
they're a necessary evil.
Yeah, I guess so.
The dirty patron.
I really like when you talk about being medically bad at being on the computer, because I know that I'm medically bad at being on the computer. In fact, even right now, and I'm sitting on a very uncomfortable chair, and I can feel it. Your chair looks a lot more comfortable.
Really? Because I don't know if y'all have noticed me scrambling around in this chair, which I do every time I record, because it's very uncomfortable. I have this like fur thing on the back of it, like how taxi drivers will have the beads over the back of the driver's seat. Does nothing, does not help. And also this room is hot as shit, and like I am medically bad at being on the computer. I'm slouching right now. I'm like sitting on my heels in a way that's bad for my knees. I could keep going, I will spare you, but I'm having a medically bad time right now.
I think I was going to ask you, you're probably medically better at banjo than you are at being on the computer. And you have been coming up on my For You page. I think I am following now, but like initially I was like, oh, a girl playing banjo. And I was like, oh, that's Rax. I think, banjo kind of makes like a late appearance in Sloppy, but do you think banjo will play a larger role in your next book?
It's going to be Tacky, Sloppy, and Banjo.
Well, maybe the next book is an album.
That's, many people are saying that that's the final form of the book. Maybe. I really do love the banjo. In fact, the last thing that I'm doing tonight is going to a group class with my banjo friends. And, we're all going to play together and we're all medium good, which is pretty good for me taking something.
What are the essential qualities of a banjo friend?
Well, we met in banjo class. That seems to be the most essential. Typically, when we get together, we play banjo together too, which, our group chat, very banjo heavy. We send each other
in the
tabs.
Park or apartments?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the group chat called?
Banjos in the Sky.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice.
There's a reason for that. I'm not going to explain it. It's very boring, and I think it sounds cooler if I don't. So
I understand. Leave a little mystery.
That's right.
So important.
Another thing, one more last note on the restaurant one. You talk about drinking Kool-Aid, and like I think this is interesting to me, not just in the context of restaurants, but jobs generally. I'll read just a bit of it. We've all met them, the servers who drink the Kool-Aid. Let's call them Orwellian servers, the ones who come closest to proving that author's point about the money-hungry snobbery in the front of house. Even off the clock, Orwellian servers' conversation is all tasting notes and ingredient provenances, et cetera, et cetera. Once they settle into a position of some influence at whatever fine dining restaurant created their work persona, they never leave it. I think a lot about like drinking the Kool-Aid at jobs, in restaurants, in other jobs I've had. And I've always thought of like you need some capacity, or maybe not everyone, but I've felt that I need some capacity to drink the Kool-Aid, but you have to like build up the poison tolerance, like in The Princess Bride, and like that's part of, for me, what's been key to being good at a job is like drink the Kool-Aid, but know your dosage.
I think that's probably why I've been so bad at like every job I've ever had, is that I'm really bad at drinking the Kool-Aid. And this is, by the way, another thing that's getting me yelled at today about Service Industry Draft is my mentions right now are full of exactly those lifers who understandably and rightfully take a lot of pride in their work because they've been doing it for a long time. They've gotten really skilled at it. And they take issue with the idea that the service industry is like a punishment for dumbasses. Like you put people through service industry boot camp and they come out on the other side improved as people. And they think that like delegitimizes the seriousness of their careers. And for me, what's so great about the service industry is that there is that low barrier to entry. You can have a criminal record and get a job in food service. Like that's really kind of rare. There's not that many fields that's the case. And it's true for, if it's your first job, 10 to 1, it's going to be in the service industry. And so I think that to become a Kool-Aid drinker in the service industry is to deny its heritage. Like, what's so great about it is that any jerk-off can get one of those jobs. They might not be good at it, but those jobs should be available because jerk-offs need employment too. And that exact line of thinking is why I'm so bad at having a job, because I'll be sitting there, it could be a desk job. I had one of those one time, and I would be sitting there at my desk looking busy on my face and like clacking away importantly and thinking the whole time, like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? The world would be a better place if I were not doing this. And in fact, if this job did not exist and if this workplace did not exist. And I think some version of that at like every job I've ever had, I'm just like, hospitality can be a serious career. It can be an art. It can also be me delivering cold mozzarella sticks to some like imperious jackass. And that, in my experience, is what it is. And So I end up with a chip on my shoulder about careerism in general. I think that we could all stand to take jobs and careers a lot less seriously and to recognize that some of them straight up don't need to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like low barrier to entry, high barrier for success.
Yeah.
And like if you have pride in clearing the higher barrier, then the way people enter the field shouldn't really matter. I wanted to ask you about you talk about your relationship with money, which is sort of like reverse abundance. So like full shade to Ezra Klein here. Yeah. Like I mean, I feel like the abundance mindset and the anti-abundance mindset, it's almost like horseshoe theory for money, where it's like you spend it not because you feel like it's going to be free flowing, but because you know that it's not. And I can see the logic for sure. I think one of the sort of like treat yourself moments that you lay out is like going to restaurants. And so I'm curious, like, I'm sure you enjoy the fine dining experience, even though you can see the machinations happening in front of your eyes that other people would miss. But how does having that experience change the way that you go out? Do you have to like compartmentalize to enjoy it? Are you like watching and like reading the emotions of all the waitresses?
To some extent, yeah, I definitely have like customer codependency. I am a pathologically considerate customer to the point that I think it probably circles back on itself and becomes annoying again. Like I'm the one at the group dinner arranging all the plates and the silverware once people are done eating so that they're easy to take away. And who knows if I'm actually doing it the way they want it done. You know, I'm mostly doing it out of some private paranoia about being a customer, which, as we all agree, is a dumb and humiliating state of affairs. But like, there are certainly people, workers, who can make me turn it off. And I've had meals where, you know, the kayfabe was so good on the part of the front of house people that I walked away the same way, you know, men leave the strip club like, wow, I can't believe I just met my soulmate and all I had to do was go to the ATM with a $10 fee and get out hundreds of dollars of cash and give all of it to her. And I, you know, I walk out of restaurants much the same way. Like, yeah, me and my buddy, the waiter back there, you probably don't know him. He's my buddy from the restaurant. We were just kicking it and hanging out. And then I ended up tipping him like 50%. Anyway, we're best friends now. We're going to follow each other on Instagram. Obviously, it never happens because that's not how it works. But, you know, I'm not immune. Of course I'm not.
You are not immune from propaganda, Garfield meme.
No, I'm a total Garfield.
Start to finish, like, what's your ideal restaurant experience?
Ooh, that's a question. I can tell about the best restaurant experience I've ever had, which was at a place that is now closed. It was in DC. It was called Komi, Komi. And the chef in charge of the place just made the most incredible food, and his staff were all like really warm people. Like they had that unfeigned seeming warmth that gets you tipped like a fucking Rockefeller every single time that I don't
Kool-Aid.
have. I never had it. And anyway, Komi no longer exists. It was a tasting menu, and the chef ended up closing it so he could open like a takeout sandwich shop instead, and like an ice cream cart in the same
Reverse
space.
the bear.
Literally reverse the bear. And it's good as hell. I am so glad that that place is there. They change the name every once in a while. I think it's not called Happy Gyro right now, but that's the last time I was there.
Just to keep you on your toes.
It keeps me on my toes. I'm like, what fresh hell will tomorrow bring, former Komi?
There's an Indian restaurant in my neighborhood that I've lived in the neighborhood for 5 years, and I think they've changed branding every single year, but I don't go there too often, but I'm convinced, like, one time I went, it was the menu they served had the same branding from two, like, or the menu they gave us had the same branding from two versions of the brand before. And I haven't been for a little while, but I'm convinced that they just like are doing this once a year for like tax purposes or something. Really bizarre. They paint the sign anew. Anyways,
it's gonna work. Whatever it is they're going for, they're gonna get it.
Yeah, the Daisy, what did you mean that when you say the best restaurant start to finish? What is that for you?
Well, I think like it could be specific or not specific. Like atmosphere,
Mm-hmm.
you know, from when you walk in the door, like what do you want to feel like? Like for me, I mean, this is just riffing. Like you walk in, you're greeted warmly, but not like suspiciously warmly.
Right.
Table's already ready. I would say maybe
Bread on the table?
I would like to be with my husband or two friends. I think those are the best. Either a 3-girl dinner or a Daisy and Ben dinner. And, oh, bread. Yeah, nobody does bread anymore. What's up
Nobody
with
does
that?
bread anymore. Yeah. Or they
Point to
sell
the
you
badge.
bread.
Point to the badge.
They don't ask you for your drink order right away. Like they sort of like leave and come back in like the right amount of time. And I actually think my experience at the dinner is sort of like colored by how it ends. Like if it feels like there's like a leisurely end,
Or
we've
the
left
90
enough.
minutes, get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I don't like
yeah.
that.
No,
Yeah.
I hate that. But that's like not happened to me.
It's like an
but-
artifact of post-COVID New York that
Yeah.
has somewhat dissipated, but the more hype the restaurant, the more strict the minutage.
Yeah.
I used to have to, in my last restaurant job a few years ago, I would have to say that to people. And it was awful. It's awful to have to say it to someone and they would get, some of them took it gracefully and others acted like they had never heard of such a requirement before and wanted to hold me personally responsible. And I just, I don't like it either. I don't want to be hustled out the door. Not my rule. So sit down and stop complaining and start eating and you'll have plenty of time. Like chop.
Stop
Let's
flapping
go.
the lips.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
don't talk to
they
me.
complain when you let them know up front. Not when you're like, yeah.
Yeah, I was a hostess and I would, take folks to their table and there's no good way to say it. I tried every possible combination of words and I would just be like, just so you know, you have plenty of time, but and then, the butt comes in and their hackles are up and it's all over. And it was an uncomfortable conversation and I'm glad not to be having it as part of my job right now.
Is this the Cozy Bistro?
Yeah. It's the place that I had to get a job there because I spent my entire first book advance on thousands of dollars of cocaine.
Many such cases.
It happens. Sorry. I didn't know if you were legally allowed to name the restaurants that you worked at in the book or if it was an intentional choice to just sort of let the reader self-insert.
I think I'm probably legally allowed to, but I don't want the smoke. I'm a coward. I don't want anyone to be mad at me ever.
I get it.
Oh, I certainly wouldn't. I was going to ask, I think it's 17 essays in the book, right?
Certainly possible.
Certainly possible.
Is it?
Did you? Well, I think it is. My question though, did you write any more that you then you were arranging them and this one here, this one? Were there others that you cut?
Yeah, there's 2 that ended up on the cutting room floor. One of which, this is a good reminder, I have to send an email about this today, is going to appear somewhere else, supposedly, and the other of which I put on my newsletter, because nobody wanted it, and I was really proud of it, and so I put it there.
Did you send it to me?
Did I send it? No, I don't think so.
Oof.
It's long for dirt,
We'll
though,
check.
Daisy.
Yeah, it might be long for dirt.
It's like 5,000 words. I don't know. It's long.
That's a long one.
Yeah, I know. And I wasn't going to cut it. I was married to the length, so.
Where was it going to go in the book?
Yeah.
What position? Like last, middle, beginning?
It was like towards the end. It was going to be kind of my triumphant love letter to my hometown. And it just didn't fit the theme of the rest. So it wasn't like my editor wrote to me to say, this is, I'm sorry to say, the worst thing I've ever read. And if you don't cut it from this manuscript, I'm going to terminate your contract and then I'm going to beat your ass. Like that didn't happen, but it just didn't fit. So
when you sold the book, I mean, circling back on what we said, where this one is not really about making cultural proclamations, like when you sold the book, was that the understanding? Like, did the publisher, this was like the publisher bought it, understanding that this was really a memoir and not something that you would read to understand culture broadly?
Yeah, I mean, the way I originally pitched it was as a more straightforward addiction story.
Mhm.
It was still going to be a memoir type essay collection, but everything in it was going to be about addiction. And that ended up actually kind of boxing me into a corner. I mean, notwithstanding people's superstitions and prejudices about addiction memoirs, like it was hard to write at such length about addiction. And so we ended up refocusing around bad habits in general, bad behavior in general, which gave me a lot more runway to taxi down, and it gave me more wiggle room. And it really opened up the memoir side of it, because if I was going to write just an addiction memoir, ironically, it would have ended up drawing much more on culture and, takes, because 15 years of addiction, I'm not sure that by itself justifies like 250 pages.
You'd have to review scar tissue.
Right. Yeah. I would have to like go back out and get into PCP or something.
What's your book tour going to look like this time?
I actually get to have one this time, which is very exciting.
Because Tacky was during COVID.
Yeah, Tacky came out during COVID, so I did a few isolated kind of random spots, but I didn't have a dedicated tour. And this time I am going to DC, then Boston and Providence, then Seattle and LA, and then Indianapolis. And then I'm going to go home and I'm going to sleep for 5 days.
Yes. Wait, you're hitting Riff Raff, right?
I am.
In Providence? Amazing. I'm going to be there on August 8th with Steph Wambugu to talk about her book, but it's such a cute store. It's a store and a bar. You would love it. Mm-hmm. Have you been to Providence?
I helped my friend move up there in the summer of 2020, but that's the only time I've been.
Providence
I've never been.
Amazing food. I think you're going to like it.
I'm really looking. I mean, I've had some friends give me a hot tip that Providence is full of like ex-hardcore guys who are like hot bald men, which is
oh no,
the best kind. So I'm just gonna go do like sex tourism in Providence. That's how this is gonna go.
Perfect. Yeah. Sex tourism and calamari, like two things that go together perfectly.
Yeah, two great tastes that taste great together.
Are you gonna pop up? You didn't mention Buffalo, but are you gonna pop up and see our friends Rochelle and Aiden?
I really want to. I think probably not like on the book tour proper, but I'm going back out to do some other stuff in the fall, and I'm going to try and hit Buffalo because I've never been. And Rochelle and Aiden are the best. And I would really love to do an event with Rochelle because she's really good at it and she would do everything. She's so good at like throwing parties and coming up with ideas. And then I can just kind of like fart along and show up somewhere and know that it's going to be amazing.
And eat some wings.
Yeah, well, I can do that anywhere. I'm going to probably do that like in 2 hours just here.
Yeah.
I did that last night, 2 nights ago, actually.
Nice. Buffalo Wild?
No, my local. I'm not going to name it. I've docked myself, close to dox myself enough.
Oh, come on.
But I had some Buffalo Wild wing. No, they weren't Buffalo Wild wing. I had Buffalo wings.
They weren't wild.
They weren't wild. They were good. Weren't wild. Was I wild about them? Yeah. We had that and then some honey garlic. It was good.
Guys, I have a confession. For the last 2 weeks, I've been trying to find a way to combine hot summer nights mid-July when you and I were forever wild with Buffalo Wild Wings, and I haven't figured out the right
You've been trying to get a tweet off? Yeah.
But it's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
It's weirdly tough.
I can get there, though.
I think you can.
Rax, am I correct that you're more of a Blue Sky user than a so-called X user these days?
Yeah, these days. I mean, I write a weekly newsletter, so I need to be able to post links and have them actually show up in feeds. And the so-called X, I'm never going to call it that, Twitter, is really bad for that
You say that
anymore.
in the book, too, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to say it every day for the rest of my life, first thing in the morning. I'm never going to call it X. It's the stupidest fucking thing I ever heard of in my life. Twitter is a bad place to post anymore. Either I post on there and I get idiots in my mentions at a rate heretofore unseen, or like my stuff just doesn't get any attention, which is a problem. Links are nothing, can't post those. So yeah, Blue Sky is better for my purposes.
Regarding the restaurant draft tweet, are the idiots you're getting in your mentions there? Like, what is the idiocy rate better? Is the mental health of the idiot like lower, higher on Blue Sky? What is the Blue Sky? Because I just don't really spend much time on there. Is the Blue Sky idiot? How does that compare to the Twitter?
It's a different breed of idiot.
Yeah.
I find the Blue Sky idiot more manageable, meeker.
Meeker.
You know? Yeah, like they don't want to get yelled at any more than I want to get yelled at.
Rax,
so
is it possible you might have a noble savage mentality towards your reply guys?
It is very possible. Look, I love my reply guys. I do. It's a symbiotic relationship. But sometimes they get a little big for their britches, and that's a problem. And it happens actually less on Blue Sky than on Twitter. On Blue Sky, what I get are like finger waggers. I get fingers wagged at me a lot.
I think the title of this episode, the title of this episode has to either be sloppy or noble savage. Reply.
Sloppy savage. We could. What about buffalo sloppy wings?
Wait, that's such a better name for them, though, because they are sloppy.
Do you have to? Is that like you go eat them, but you have to go like bobbing for wings? No hands.
I mean, do your hands not get dirty? Are you doing knife and fork?
Knife and fork? No.
Okay, sick. So the sloppy, it's a little self-explanatory,
but,
right?
You
would
pinkies
say?
up. I usually eat them pinkies up.
Okay, whatever. All right, before we go, I'm so glad that reply guys came up, because I have to tell you, Rex, the way that you went out with Sean is the same exact way that I went out with Ben. Ben responded to one of my tweets to ask why I never followed him back.
Wow.
And that led to our first date.
Way.
Literally exact same. Like, is there a playbook we don't know about that they've been circulating?
Oh, God. I'm about to go into the other room and interrogate my husband.
Yeah, you
about
confront
that.
him. Ben's at work, but I'm going to give him a call.
The way that they say every app is a dating app, right?
Yeah, it is. Twitter more than most for me.
Yeah.
I've you know what? I've done a lot of things via Twitter with a lot of people. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, Twitter's taking me places
husband.
I wouldn't go with a gun.
Yeah, yep, that's right.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for coming on, everyone. Sloppy will already be out. Yeah, in stores.
Today, if you're a good loyal listener and you're listening to this the day it came out, it is July 30th. Sloppy's in store. Go to your closest McNally Jackson, Borders, Barnes and Nobles, Sloppy Seaport. It's there on the new release table.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rax.
Thank you for having me. This was super fun.